Hello students, in last lecture we have completed the process of gastrulation. From blastula, gastrula is formed, and during the formation of gastrulation, different developmental changes are occurring in the embryo. In the last lecture, all those changes we have studied. Now in today's lecture, first of all we have to see one video about the process of gastrulation, and then we come to the next point. So the gastrulation process, that video I am going to show you here. So in this process of gastrulation, gastrulation means the gastrula is formed from the blastula. That process is called as a gastrulation, and here the process where implanted blastula forms 3 germ layers, means here formation of 3 germ layers from the blastula. That process is called as a gastrulation, and it is taking about 3 weeks following fertilization, and there is transformation of bilaminar disc. Bilaminar disc means epiblast and hypoblast that is formed in the gastrula into the trilaminar disc, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. As we have seen, epiblast, it is responsible for the formation of ectoderm, the hypoblast which is responsible for the formation of endoderm, and then between the epiblast and hypoblast primitive streak is formed, due to which mesoderm is formed. So here epiblast and hypoblast are, this is the bilaminar disc which is converted into this trilaminar disc, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. Here what happens, you see, from epiblast ectoderm is formed, and from hypoblast endoderm is formed, and in between that primitive streak is formed, and due to this primitive streak mesoderm is formed. Okay, so here ectoderm is the first layer which is formed by the epiblast layer, and later it differentiates into integumentary and nervous systems, and also in the pituitary gland. So all these structures, that is integumentary means digestive system part, and the nervous system part along with the pituitary gland are formed with the help of this epiblast layer, that is ectoderm. Then here what happens, the mesoderm layer which is formed, this mesoderm is in the middle of the epiblast and hypoblast layers. In between the epiblast and hypoblast layers there is formation of third layer, that is mesoderm, which is laterally differentiated into these reproductive systems and the connective tissue. Different connective tissues and the reproductive systems are developed with the help of this mesoderm. And third layer we have to see here, that is formed endoderm, and this endoderm is developed by this hypoblast. So here you can see this endoderm which is developed with the help of this hypoblast layer, forms from the hypoblast layer, and later differentiates into epithelial layers like lungs, then gastrointestinal tract, liver, pancreas, bladder, thyroid and parathyroid gland. So there are different organs of our body which are formed from these 3 layers. Some are formed from ectoderm, some are formed from mesoderm, and some are formed from endoderm. So here in this video we have to see here, this is the endometrium, that is in the uterine wall, innermost layer, that is endometrium, and this is the blastocyst. As you see here, this is the outermost layer which is called as a trophoblast, and this is the inner cell mass, this yellow colored structure, and this is the cavity which is also called as a blastocyst cavity or blastocyst. And during the formation of this blastocyst, simultaneously implantation process is carried out. So here this blastula is getting implanted into this endometrial wall. Here you can see this endometrial wall, and the blastula is starting here the implantation process. ज्याच्यामध्ये implantation झालेले बघायला मिळतं. Here the trophoblastic layers are divided into 2 layers. Here invading syncytial trophoblast. As we have seen, syncytial trophoblast and cytotrophoblast are formed. Here the syncytial trophoblast are invading into the endometrium, and the embryo is getting completely buried. You can see here. So here we can see what happens. You see here, this is the blastula and this is the inner cell mass. This is the trophoblastic layer. At this region, the trophoblastic layer is divided into two layers, syncytiotrophoblasts and cytotrophoblast. Out of that, the syncytiotrophoblasts are invading into the endometrial glands and they are completely making a burrow. इथे एक खड्डा खणला जातो आणि त्या खड्ड्यामध्ये हा एम्ब्रियो पूर्णपणे काय केला जातो, आतमध्ये घुसवला जातो. This process is called as the implantation, at which this embryo is completely buried into this endometrial wall. So this is the implantation process. Okay. Now we will see next point here. What happens? You see here again that here is the differentiation of this embryonal proper or this embryonal gland, that is epiblast and hypoblast. As you can see here, these are the two layers, that is called as the bilaminar disc here. This is the epiblast and this is the hypoblast, and they are developing here, and there is formation of three germ layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, and this is the connecting stalk which is formed in between this endometrium and the embryo. This is the connecting stalk which is formed here, we can observe. So in such a way that the implantation process is carried out into the uterus, and side by side here the development of this blastula is getting converted into the gastrula. How it is getting converted, that we have to study in this video later on. So here this is the connecting link stalk, or this connecting link between this embryo and this endometrium. So what happens, you see here, this is the formation of gastrula. Here we can see this is the yolk sac which is formed due to the growth of epiblast. This is the epiblast and this epiblast. So here this is the epiblast and this is the hypoblast. This hypoblast is growing and there is formation of yolk sac, and this layer is called as the hypoblast. This layer is called as the epiblast, and here all this region is the inner cell mass, and there is formation of amnion also. And during this development here, what happens, you see there are the two layers formed here. This is the ectoderm and this is the endoderm. Two layers are formed here, and again these two layers are showing here primitive strip like structure, and due to this primitive string another layer is formed here. You can see this is the ectoderm and this is the endoderm, and in between that this pink colored structure mesoderm is formed. So how it is formed, that you have to see in this diagram what happens. This is the stalk to which the embryo is attached with this endometrial gland or endometrial wall of the uterus, and here this is the inner cell mass, and from this inner cell mass the cells which are the cells of inner cell mass undergo differentiation, that is epiblast and hypoblast cell. What happens, see here, this is the inner cell mass, and from that some cells are forming this layer that is called as epiblast, and this is yellow colored structure that is called as a hypoblast, and this hypoblast is growing and they are forming a cover around the sac-like structure that is called as a yolk sac. So this is the yolk sac which is formed due to the differentiation of the cells of the hypoblast, and this is the amniotic cavity. This amniotic cavity is formed due to the cells differentiated by the epiblast. Now in these epiblast cells migrate into the midline to form primitive strip. So here this epiblast layer, it is migrating into the midline. असे सगळे सेल्स याच्यामध्ये येतात आणि इथं मग काय होतं, प्रिमिटिव्ह स्ट्रिप तयार होतो. स्ट्रिप इलॉंगेट्स फ्रॉम कॉर्डल टू क्रॅनियल. कॉर्डल म्हणजे कॉर्डल एंड म्हणतो आपण, आपला जो स्पायनल कॉर्ड आहे त्याचा सगळ्यात शेवटचा व्हर्टिब्रा म्हणजे कॉर्डल व्हर्टिब्रा आपण म्हणतो, आणि क्रॅनियल म्हणजे ब्रेन. अशा पद्धतीने हा प्रिमिटिव्ह स्ट्रिप इथं तयार होतो. आणि त्याच्यानंतर जर आपण बघितलं तर इथं काय होतं बघा, सम एपिब्लास्ट सेल्स मायग्रेट इनटू द प्रिमिटिव्ह स्ट्रिप अँड enter into the hypoblast. So here this epiblast layer, this primary strip is entering into the hypoblast region. So here some epiblast cells migrate into primitive strip and enter into the hypoblast and then transform hypoblast into the endoderm. So here there is transformation of this hypoblast into the endoderm and remaining epiblast cells differentiated into ectoderm. So here what happens, this epiblast here is forming ectoderm and as well as it is forming endoderm, and then the middle part here is forming the mesoderm layer that is shown in the last diagram here. We can observe. So these are the different developmental changes occurring during the gastrulation process, and this structure it is called as the primitive streak. So this structure is observed about 14 to 15 days after fertilization, and due to this primitive streak formation, the three layers are formed, that is ectoderm, endoderm, and later on there is formation of the mesoderm. So all these processes are involved. So here we can observe majority of the epiblast cells occupy space between epiblast and hypoblast layers and differentiating into the mesoderm. So what happens here? There is majority of the epiblast cells occupy space between the epiblast and hypoblast. म्हणजे काय होतं की काही epiblast cells ह्या epiblast आणि hypoblastच्या मध्ये जाऊन बसतात. And these cells are later differentiated into mesoderm, and notochord is the first mesodermal tissue to form. So here the notochord is firstly formed by this mesoderm layer, and due to this we can observe here the different developmental stages occurring during this gastrulation. So in this way the process of gastrulation is completed, that we have seen in the last lecture. In today's lecture we have seen the video about the process of gastrulation. So here the different developmental stages of gastrulation are occurring, and how this embryo is forming three germ layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, that we have completed with the help of this video. Now I am stopping to show this video and starting the next point of our discussion. So after seeing this video of the formation of these three germ layers, now the next point of our discussion is the fate of these germ layers, means which organs or organ systems are formed by these three germ layers, and this is called as the fate of three germ layers. म्हणजे ह्या तीन germ layer पासून कोणकोणते organs तयार होतात, त्यांचा मार्ग काय आहे, that is called as this fate of three germ layers. So here at the end of gastrulation, embryo develops into three germ layers, and from these three germ layers different tissues and organs are formed. That process is called as a histogenesis, or we can call it as a organogenesis. From these three germ layers there is formation of different tissues and different organs, and this process is called as a histogenesis, or we can call it as a organogenesis. And that process here we have to study from which germ cell or which germ layer which organs are formed in our body. So here first germ layer, that is the ectoderm, and the different body organs or different tissues are formed from the ectoderm are listed here. We can see here the fate of ectoderm. Ectoderm gives rise to epidermis of skin. Our skin, it is having this outer layer that is called as epidermis, that is formed from this ectoderm layer. Then the epidermal derivatives means the different organ or different body parts which are present on the covering of our body, and those body organs are here the hairs, nails, sweat glands, salivary glands, mammary glands, lacrimal glands, sebaceous gland. So all these different glands or hairs or nails which are present on the covering area of our skin, and therefore these derivatives are here called as epidermal derivative. Epidermal म्हणजे काय की आपल्या स्किनचा वरचा जो लेयर आहे, वरचं सगळ्यात आउटरमोस्ट जे कवरिंग आहे त्याला काय म्हटलं जातं, epidermis म्हटलं जातं. And that epidermis is formed from the ectoderm, and also there are some structures which are present in our body which are formed from these epidermal derivative. म्हणजे आपल्या बॉडीच्या वरच्या सरफेस वरतीच हे ऑर्गन्स किंवा हे जे ग्लँड्स आहेत ते प्रेझेंट असलेले बघायला मिळतात. त्याच्यामध्ये काय काय येतं तर the hairs which are present on our body or on our head, and the nails which are present on our fingers or toes. So here hair and nails. स्वेट ग्लँड्स अँड सिबॅसियस ग्लँड म्हणजे घर्मग्रंथी आपण त्याला म्हणतो, घाम येणाऱ्या ग्रंथी. आणि सिबॅसियस ग्लँड म्हणजे आपल्या चेहऱ्यावरती काही तेलकट सिक्रेट करणाऱ्या ज्या ग्लँड्स आहेत त्याला सिबॅसियस ग्लँड म्हणलं जातं. हे सुद्धा आपल्याला या एक्टोडर्म पासून तयार झालेले बघायला मिळतात. देन मॅमरी ग्लँड्स, ॲज वी हॅव सीन इन द मॅमल्स, the two mammary glands are present at the pectoral region, that is in the chest region. Those mammary glands are also present on the outer body surface, and therefore these are also called as the epidermal derivative and they are formed from the ectoderm. Then lacrimal glands, lacrimal gland म्हणजे आपल्या ह्या डोळ्याच्या इथल्या बाजूला इथं हे दोन lacrimal glands असतात की ज्याच्यामधून जे अश्रू म्हणतो आपण, डोळ्यातलं पाणी जे आहे ते सिक्रेट करण्याचं काम त्या lacrimal gland कडून केलं जातं. So these are the lacrimal glands. Then sebaceous glands, salivary glands. The salivary glands, as you know, there are three pairs of salivary glands are present in our mouth region, that is sublingual gland, submandibular gland and parotid gland. All these glands are also derived from this ectoderm. These are the different glands which are derived from the ectoderm. Now the next part here रिलेटेड टू आवर आय. आपल्या डोळ्यातले कोणते कोणते पार्ट्स तयार झालेले असतात हे ectoderm पासून, तर कंजक्टिवा, कॉर्निया, लेन्स अँड रेटिना. सो इन आवर आय, रेटिना इट इज द इनरमोस्ट लेयर ऑफ आवर आय, द लेन्स इज प्रेझेंट अँड कॉर्निया that is the outermost region sclera, and that sclera's extended portion in front of our eye, that region is called as a cornea, and around the cornea one layer is present that is called as a conjunctiva. So these are the four different parts which are present in our eye and these are derived from the ectoderm layer. म्हणजे आपल्या डोळ्याचे हे चार पार्ट्स आहेत, कंजक्टिवा, कॉर्निया, लेन्स आणि रेटिना, की जे कशापासून तयार झालेले आहेत तर ectoderm germ layer पासून तयार झालेले आहेत. Then here internal and external ear. कानाच्या बाबतीमध्ये जर बघितलं तर आपण बघितलेलं आहे की ear is consisting of three parts. This is the external ear, then middle ear and internal ear. Out of that, external ear and internal ear, that is cochlea and vestibular apparatus. So these are the two parts, that is internal ear and external ear are derived from the ectoderm. Means this external ear pinna and the inner ear is consisting of cochlea and vestibular apparatus, that is formed from the ectoderm. Middle ear is not formed by the ectoderm. So here we have to remember this, only external and internal ear parts are developed from this ectoderm. Then enamel of teeth, आपल्या दाताच्या वरचं जे काही कव्हरिंग आहे, which is the hardest substance of the body, we can call it as enamel, and that enamel is derived from this ectoderm. Then nasal cavity, this nasal cavity म्हणजे नाकपुडे जे आपण म्हणतो त्या नेसल कॅव्हिटीचं फॉर्मेशन कशापासून झालेलं आहे, या ectoderm पासून झालेलं आहे. देन ॲड्रिनल मेडुला, ॲड्रिनल ग्लँड इज देअर विच इज प्रेझेंट अबव द किडनी, that is showing again two regions, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. Out of that adrenal medulla, it is derived from this ectoderm, that we have to remember. Then foregut, midgut, the digestive system in the human body we have already studied, and that is showing three parts, foregut, midgut and hindgut. Out of that, the foregut parts and midgut parts are derived from this ectoderm germ layer. And then posterior pituitary, as we have seen the structure of pituitary gland, that pituitary gland is having two parts, anterior lobe, posterior lobe. Anterior lobe is called as a adenohypophysis and posterior lobe is called as a neurohypophysis. Out of that, here from ectoderm, the posterior pituitary lobe, that is neurohypophysis, it is derived from the ectoderm layer. And entire nervous system, that means whole the nervous system, that is central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, autonomous nervous system, all the neurons or the neuroglial cells, different types of neuroglial cells we have studied. So all these parts of nervous system are fully developed from this ectoderm. So here these are the different body parts or body organs or body tissues which are derived from this ectoderm, that we have to remember all these parts. This first is the epidermal derivatives like hair, nail, sweat gland, salivary gland, sebaceous gland. lacrimal gland. And then from eyes, here 4 parts: conjunctiva, cornea, lens and retina. From ear, we can see here the external ear and internal ear are formed from the ectoderm. Then the enamel of teeth and the nasal cavity. Then from adrenal gland, adrenal medulla is the part which is derived from the ectoderm. And then foregut and midgut part of the digestive system. Then from pituitary gland, the posterior pituitary region, that is neurohypophysis, which is derived from this ectoderm. And here whole or entire nervous system which is derived from this ectoderm, that we have to remember. Now the fate of mesoderm. Different body parts or organs which are derived from this mesoderm. Here we can see. So mesoderm for all types of muscles. As we have studied, there are different types of muscles present in our body, that is smooth muscle, then striated muscle and cardiac muscles. All these muscles are derived from this mesoderm, but except there is iris muscle and the ciliary muscles which are present in our eyes. आपल्या डोळ्यामध्ये इररेडियल मसल्स, त्यालाच आपण काय म्हणणार आहे इथं, मसल्स ऑफ आयरिस अँड सिलियरी मसल्स विच आर प्रेझेंट in between the ciliary body and lens. Those ciliary muscles and irradial muscles are not derived from this mesoderm, though they are muscles. म्हणजे जरी ते मसल्स असतील तरी मेसोडर्म पासून ते मसल्स तयार होत नाहीत. तेवढे 2 मसल्स सोडले तर बाकीचे सर्व मसल्स जे आहेत आपल्या बॉडीमध्ये हे कशापासून तयार झालेले आहेत, तर मेसोडर्म पासून. अँड दीज मसल्स आर derived फ्रॉम ectoderm, that we have to remember. Then all types of connective tissues we have studied, those are derived from this mesoderm. Then dermis of skin means this is the epidermis, and below this epidermis another layer is present all over the body, and that layer is called as the dermis of skin, and this dermis of skin is derived from the mesoderm. Then adrenal cortex area. From adrenal gland, middle part is medulla, that is derived from ectoderm, and outer part of that adrenal gland, it is derived from this mesoderm. Then heart, blood vessels, blood, lymphatic vessels means the structures which are related to the circulatory system. All the structures which are related to the circulatory system means the blood, blood vessels, heart and lymphatic system. All these structures are derived from this mesoderm. Then middle ear. As we have seen the structure of middle ear, what it contains, the middle ear is consisting of the cavity which is called as a tympanic cavity, and in that tympanic cavity 3 ear ossicles are present, malleus, incus and stapes. So all these structures which are present in this middle ear are derived from this mesoderm. Then dentine of teeth. As we have seen the structure of teeth in 11th human digestive system, teeth is made up of 2 parts. Inner part is called as a dentine and outer covering part is called as a enamel. Out of that, enamel is formed from the ectoderm region, and inner जो dentine region आहे तो कशापासून बनलेला असतो, तर हे मेसोडर्म पासून बनलेला असतो. Then here urinary and reproductive ducts. There are different ducts are present in urinary system. The ureters are present, and in reproductive system there are oviducts are present in female body, and in male body we can see urethra or vas deferens. So these are the different duct like structures are present, and all these ducts related to the urinary system and the reproductive system are derived from this mesoderm. Then gonads, male gonad as a testis and female gonad as a ovary. Both these gonads are derived from this mesoderm. Then kidneys are also derived from the mesoderm, and sclera and choroid of eye. In the structure of eye, we have already studied the eye is surrounded by 3 layers. Outermost is called as a sclera, middle is called as a choroid, and innermost is called as a retina. Out of that, retina is made up of ectoderm layer, and remaining 2, sclera and choroid, are derived from this mesoderm layer. So here we can see one organ is there, but the parts of that one organ is derived from different layers. That is, some part is derived from ectoderm, some part is derived from mesoderm, and some part is derived from endoderm. So here all these organs or all these tissues which are derived from this mesoderm, again I repeat here, all types of muscles means smooth muscles, striated muscle and cardiac muscles are derived from this mesoderm, except the muscles which are present in our eyes, that is muscles of iris, which are also called as irradial muscles, and the muscles which are present in between the lens and ciliary body, those are called as the ciliary muscles, are not derived from the mesoderm but they are derived from the ectoderm, that we have to remember. Then all types of connective tissues means here areolar connective tissue, as adipose connective tissue, bone, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, all these connective tissues are derived from this mesoderm. All the parts of circulatory system are derived from this mesoderm. Adrenal cortex region, then middle ear, the antennæ of teeth, the ducts of urinary system and the reproductive system, the gonads, kidneys and sclera and choroid layer of eyes are derived from this mesoderm layer. Okay. Now the third layer here is the endoderm, and there are different body organs or parts which are derived from the endoderm are listed here. So endoderm forms organs as epithelium of midgut from pharynx to colon. So here this endoderm is forming a layer, epithelial layer around our digestive system, that is from midgut, that is from pharynx to colon. म्हणजे फॅरिंक्स पासून कोलॉन रिजन, कोलॉन म्हणजे लार्ज इंटेस्टाइनचा लास्टचा पार्ट, रेक्टम आणि कोलॉन आणि रेक्टम असं आपण बघितलेलं आहे. तर फॅरिंक्स पासून कोलॉन पर्यंतचा जो काही पूर्ण डायजेस्टिव्ह ट्रॅक आहे त्याच्या सराउंडिंग जो लेयर आहे तो सर्व लेयर जो आहे तो एपिथेलियल लेयर जो आहे तो कशापासून बनलेला असतो, या एंडोडर्म पासून बनलेला असतो. Then the glands which are present in stomach and intestine, that is gastric glands which are present in the stomach and intestinal glands which are present in the intestine are formed from this endoderm. Then tongue and tonsils, this tongue and tonsils which are present in this neck region are derived from this mesoderm. Lungs, trachea, bronchi, larynx means the major parts which are present in the respiratory system are derived from this mesoderm. As we have seen, circulatory system is derived from the mesoderm, but respiratory system is derived from this endoderm, that we have to remember. Then urinary bladder which is the part of excretory system, it is derived from the endoderm. Then vestibule and vagina, these two regions are present in the female reproductive tract, internal genitalia, and this is the external genitalia. So these are the female reproductive system parts which are derived from this mesoderm. Then liver and pancreas, these are the additional juice secreting glands which are associated digestive glands, we can call it as. These liver and pancreas are derived from this endoderm. And the posterior pituitary gland, from that pituitary gland here the anterior lobe which is called as the adenohypophysis, that is derived from this endoderm, that we have to remember. And different endocrine glands like thymus gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, these three endocrine glands are derived from this endoderm layer. And then Eustachian tube, this Eustachian tube is present in our which is started from our middle ear and it is coming up to the pharynx region. That structure we have studied in the details of the structure of ear. कानाचं जे स्ट्रक्चर आपण बघितलं त्यावेळी Eustachian ट्यूब बघितलं. आपल्या मिडल इयर पासून आपल्या घशापर्यंत एक ट्यूब अराइज झालेली असते अशी. त्या ट्यूबला काय म्हटलं जातं, Eustachian ट्यूब म्हटलं जातं. That tube is derived from this mesoderm and the epithelium of urethra and lining of middle ear is formed by this endoderm. So here the epithelium of urethra, that is urinary system, it is formed from endoderm, and lining of middle ear means the parts of middle ear are derived from the mesoderm, but the lining of that middle ear it is derived from this endoderm. So from these three different germinal layers, the different body organs are produced, that we have seen. And as we have seen, if one organ is formed in our body, it consisting of some parts which are derived from ectoderm, some parts which are derived from mesoderm and some parts which are derived from endoderm. म्हणजे आपल्या शरीरातला कोणताही एक ऑर्गन घेतला तर त्या ऑर्गनमध्ये अनेक टिश्यूज असतात आणि ते टिश्यू कशापासून तयार झालेले असतात तर काही जे आहेत ते ectodermपासून तयार होतात, काही जे आहेत ते मेसोडर्मपासून तयार होतात आणि काही जे आहेत ते एंडोडर्मपासून तयार होतात. सो आवर टोटल body parts or total body organs or organ systems are derived from all these three germ layers. Means there is no only one organ which is derived from only one germ layer. असा कोणताही एक ऑर्गन नाही की तो एकाच जर्म लेयर पासून तयार झालेला असेल. प्रत्येक ऑर्गन मध्ये काही पार्ट एंडोडर्म पासून तयार झाला असेल, काही पार्ट मेसोडर्म पासून तयार झाला असेल, काही पार्ट ectoderm पासून तयार झाला असेल. सो these are the different fate of these three germ layers as we have studied. Very simple point is there. We have to remember this fate of germ layers according to the systems present in our body. जे हे लक्षात ठेवण्यासाठी आपण हिचं काय करू शकतो, जे काही सिस्टीम्स आहेत म्हणजे आपलं रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टीम आहे, सर्क्युलेटरी सिस्टीम आहे, नर्वस सिस्टीम आहे, एंडोक्राइन सिस्टीम आहे, अशा वेगवेगळ्या सिस्टीमचा अभ्यास करून त्यातले कुठले पार्ट कुठल्या जर्म लेअरपासून तयार झालेले आहेत असा एक टेब्युलर फॉर्म जर तयार केला तर आपल्याला हे इझिली लक्षात राहायला सोपं जाईल. अँड दॅट यू हॅव टू मेड दिस टॅब्युलर चार्ट बाय ऑब्झर्विंग दिस today's lecture, that is fate of germ layers. So in today's lecture, firstly we have seen the video about the process of gastrulation. I hope you understand the process of gastrulation that is taking place inside the uterus, and then we have completed the point here, fate of germ layers. So we will stop here. In the next lecture we have to study how this pregnancy is continued up to 9 months, and this pregnancy is divided into 3 trimesters. What are the different developmental changes occurring in the embryo during the pregnancy, that we have to study in the next lecture. Till then, thank you.